Good afternoon, everyone. For those visiting, my name is Father Kevin. I'm the pastor of Corpus Christi, and on behalf of our parish community, I'd like to welcome you to today's kickoff concert featuring Olivia Pidi on trumpet and Paul Carroll, organist and pianist. If you don't have a spiritual home, please consider making Corpus Christi your spiritual home. We have bulletins in the back, and also on our website has more information. So on behalf of our parish, enjoy the concert, and may this season be one of grace, growth, and harmony in your lives, in your families, in our community, and in our nation. So maybe we could have a round of applause for Paul and Olivia.
Thank you all so much for being here with us today. It's a real pleasure to share our Sunday with you. My name is Olivia Pidi. I'm really excited to be here with a really eclectic program of music. We have a lot of different styles in store for you. That first piece that we just played came from a set of 7 Spanish folk songs by a composer named Manuel de Falla. De Falla, though he didn't have a very prolific output of music, he didn't write that much music, he is widely considered one of Spain's greatest composers, so much so that they actually put his face on their money. What we're going to move to next, and I should say we're going to return to this set of songs at the end, so sit tight because we will come back to them. And they are vocal pieces, so there are words that go along with these actually. We're going to move next to a piece by a 20th century composer named Alan Hovhaness, and he considered himself a mystic minimalist, which I think you will hear in the music a little bit. This piece was originally an intermezzo in an opera that he wrote, and at that time he called it the Prayer of Illumination. Later, when he decided to make it a piece for trumpet and orchestra, and then later arranged for trumpet and organ, he decided to rename it for St. Gregory the Illuminator. So he thought of it first as a prayer for illumination in the darkness, and then he renamed it for St. Gregory, who is the saint who was thought to have brought Christianity to Armenia. So it'll be a little bit different. We're going to play with the organ now, so please enjoy the Prayer of St. Gregory by Alan Hovhaness. going to pass it over to Paul now to tell you a little bit about the next piece.
So the next piece is an organ solo, and we tried to find something that was along the same vein as the Prayer of St. Gregory you just heard. So this piece by Frank Bridge is a big crescendo and decrescendo. It starts out at the quietest moment, grows to, well, you'll decide how it grows, and then we pull back way at the end, back to almost nothing. So enjoy this Adagio by Frank Bridge.
So next on our program, we're going to play two movements from the Sonata for Trumpet and Piano by Eric Owazen. Eric Owazen is probably the most prolific living composer of brass music today. He writes music for solo brass instruments. He's really well known for his brass quintets. And he's on faculty at the Juilliard School in New York City, teaching both composition and music theory and ear training. If you'll bear with me for just a minute, I'd love to just share a short story about this piece with you. So I first heard this piece when I was in high school, and it was on an album called American Brass Quintet and Friends. And a trumpet player named Chris Gecker is playing this piece on that album. And at the time, Chris Gecker was my teacher's teacher, so it felt very poignant to be listening to it. It was like my trumpet lineage. So I was really obsessed with this recording. I put it on my pre-college, so my end of senior year of high school recital, because I loved it so much. And then I put it away, and I hadn't thought about this piece for a long time. Then this summer, I visited, my husband was a composition fellow at the Aspen Music Festival, and I went to Aspen for a week to visit him. And the day I got there, the American Brass Quintet was playing a recital. And even though Chris Gecker is no longer in this group, he was there subbing for one of the other trumpet players that day. So for the first time in a long time, I heard him play, and it reminded me about his recording of this piece. So when I got home from that trip, I dug out my copy of it, and just for fun, I read through it in my bedroom because I wanted to play it because it was fun. And I thought, this would be really fun to work on soon if an opportunity arose. And I think it was literally like 2 or 3 days later, Paul emailed me and asked if I wanted to play this concert with him, and did I have any ideas about music that I might want to play. And I was like, well, actually, yes, I would like to play this concert with you, and I've been looking for an opportunity to play the Owazen Trumpet Sonata. So I think sometimes the world works in mysterious ways to give you opportunities that you ask for. So we are just going to play the first two movements of the piece today. It is a little bit long. If you really enjoy these first two movements, that American Brass Quintet and Friends album is free on YouTube, so you can hear the third movement there. So please enjoy Eric Owazen's Sonata for Trumpet and Piano.
there are certain pieces where you just kind of want to sit quietly afterwards and reflect. Even so, I'm going to speak right now, I think. I was going to talk about the Bach, and I'm going to talk about the Bach, but in the middle of that second movement, there's this just especially beautiful point, and perhaps if we just played it by itself, it's beautiful, it's fine, but you need everything that came before it to set it up, and then you can just be like, oh wow, this is great. So because we stopped in the middle here, we didn't play the third movement, I was trying to find something that's not the same, but nice to go with this. And I'm an organist, so there always has to be Bach around. So we're going to play some Bach. And so here is the Prelude and Fugue in G major of Johann Sebastian Bach.
I'm going to scoot over near Paul for the next one because it's a little easier for us to see each other when we're close by. But the next piece that we're going to play comes from Dvorak's Ninth Symphony. So Dvorak wrote the Ninth Symphony in the late 1800s, shortly after he came to America for the first time. And inspired by the sights and sounds in this new place he was in, he subtitled it From the New World. And so the movements all have different melodies that were inspired by maybe sounds that he was hearing when he first came to America. The second movement is traditionally thought that perhaps the tune is coming from an African American spiritual or even a slave song, though it's not completely confirmed that that's where it came from. After Dvorak died, one of his students took the melody from this song and put words to it, and he republished it as a song called Goin' Home. And so that's what we're going to play for you today. In the orchestral version of this piece, the English horn plays the melody. And if you're not sure what an English horn is, it's kind of like a really big oboe, and it has a much warmer, mellow sound than the oboe does. I'm going to play it on a flugelhorn, which is kind of the same change from a trumpet to a flugelhorn. It's a little bit of a darker sound, a little bit of a more mellow sound, and that comes largely from the shape of it. You'll notice it has kind of a bigger bell, and it sounds a little bit more like a French horn or a tuba. So Paul made a really beautiful arrangement of this piece, so please do enjoy Goin' Home from Dvorak's Ninth Symphony. So we have two more selections for you, but they go together in a pair. So this will be our last set. Just a little bit of a reminder before we play our last piece, we are collecting donations in the box by the door that support both the concert series and Eva's Village Kitchen in Patterson. So if you're able to make a donation, it is very much appreciated. At the very beginning of the concert, I told you that we were going to come back to those 7 Spanish folk songs by Manuel de Falla, and here we are. We're going to play the 4th and 5th songs from the set, but we're going to play them out of order for you because we wanted to make sure that we ended on a little bit of a more energetic note. So, first we're going to play a song called Nana, and this is actually a lullaby. The words to it really are a mother singing her child to sleep. The second one that we're going to play for you is called Iota, and this is actually a kind of Spanish dance, and I think you'll hear that in the piano part. It's very bouncy. I really like this one. I feel like I've been waiting the whole concert to share this. So most of these folk songs are love songs, and this one, the singer is speaking to his beloved, and he says, I have to leave now, your house and your window. But don't worry, even though your mother disapproves, I will be back tomorrow. And at the very end, the instructions in the music say lontano, which in Italian means from far away. And he says one more time, even though your mother disapproves. I like to imagine that you can picture him maybe walking away from her window, but he's still singing to her while he goes, so you hear it in the distance. This has been a real pleasure to share the afternoon with you. Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you to Corpus Christi and Paul for inviting me to be here and play this concert with you all. So please enjoy our last 2 selections.
Thank you again so much for being here this afternoon. Thank you to Olivia for sharing her music with us. And we hope to see you next on Sunday, October 12th in the hall, same time, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And unrelated, it happens to be Jody is singing that day. And we'll look forward to seeing you then. Thank you very much.